What is up, Brian from Ballistic Tech here, and I'm pretty excited because today we got some pretty big news in the sim racing gear industry. Fanatec dropped a little bit of a bomb, one that they've actually been teasing us with for a while now. It's the CSL DD, that is direct drive wheelbase. It's a product aimed at the sort of entry level to prosumer area of the market. It's coming in at $350 is their advertised MSRP. That's right, a sub $1,000, sub $500, sub $400 direct drive wheelbase. Now, if Fanatec is able to deliver on their promises and bring about a $350 direct drive wheelbase, it could completely reshape the kind of entry to prosumer mid-tier market in the sim racing gear industry as we know it. The tagline for this product is the new standard with 2 Ds, hinting at the fact that for them at least, it seems like belt-driven drives are going a little bit of the wayside, and that might mean that going forward, most of their product offerings or all of their product offerings in terms of wheelbases will be direct drive. We'll have to see if they announce a new club sports wheelbase in the future. And of course, their podiums and DD lineup of wheelbases are already up in the direct drive over the $1,000 mark. All right, now let's get into the specs. I already mentioned the price. $350, that's kind of bonkers, right? But let's move into a little bit more detail. This seems like it's likely going to be replacing the current CSL Elite wheelbase, which has been kind of MIA on the Fanatec site for a while now. And I'm excited about this for what it means for the industry, because if they're able to deliver on what they're promising with this wheelbase, you're going to be able to pick up below $800, a really nice all Fanatec rig. You'll be able to get this $350 CSL DD wheelbase. You'll be able to pick up the McLaren GT3 V2 CSL wheel for $200. And then you could get the CSL Elite load cell pedals, which are around $230. Now, all of this is before tax and VAT and shipping and all of that. But for $780, you can pick up a pretty legit whole setup for sim racing. Now, in terms of the motor, Fanatec has gone full custom here with their typical type of industrial design and design language. It's not really a stripped down midge motor that they've re-encased. They do have this nice kind of blown out exploded view to show off what's going on inside, and it reminds me a lot of what we've seen in teardowns of the DD1 and DD2. Now, my assumption here, again, I'm just guessing because I don't have my hands on it, is that since we're going with a lower spec motor, the accompanying kind of accoutrement or other components can be slightly lower spec too. If you're not running 25 Newton meters through this wheelbase, then you can, save by having lower end braking resistors and just all of the other componentry that you need. So hopefully that componentry is lower priced and lower spec, but still of high quality, and the wheelbases will last and be able to produce, what we want and need from a $350 direct drive wheelbase. I keep saying that because it's just kind of wild to me. In terms of torque, which is one of the kind of, benchmarks, slap it on the box type specs, it's going to have 5 Newton meters of torque from its baseline package. You can upgrade and get a higher spec power supply unit, which is obviously going to be able to deliver more voltage and or current to it, and that'll raise it up to 8 Newton meters. So right there, we can see they're already creating a little bit more of a stratum and tier system, so you can pick and choose whether or not you want to pay the money for the upgrade, which I don't think that they've listed what the price is for the upgraded power supply yet. Keep in mind that a higher torque number doesn't necessarily mean a better experience in terms of force feedback. There's a huge chain of elements that need to go from the sim into the driver, through Windows' interface, through USB, down to the firmware, out to the motors, controllers, through the motors, and into your hand. But the great thing about a DD is that there's no belt and no cog system or gear system to get in the way. The motor shaft goes directly to a coupler for your wheel rim and into your hands. There are also 2 different types of torque. There is a holding torque, which is what's going to be able to give you a strong kind of constant spring sensation, say when you're cornering and you have a lot of load into the car. The load is kind of transferred to your hands by a heavier sensation wheel. Also, when you go through compression zones, the wheels tend to get very heavy. And then there's peak torque, which is usually used to deliver quick spikes of force feedback. Say when you run over a curb, you collide with something, all the different types of rumble strips and ground effects and road effects. So here is a list of other different advertised and sometimes not advertised torque figures for a different number of, direct drive wheel and gear driven and belt driven wheels on the market today. And we can see it is in the lower end, but I think it seems pretty reasonable for a $350 wheelbase. Now we already have direct drive wheelbases that are 10 Newton meters. We have some are 15, 20, 25, and bringing it down to 5 and 8, I think makes a bit of sense at that price point. A lot of people who have even 20 to 25 Newton meter wheelbases, there are some that go up to like 35 and 40. Most of them don't run it at full spec. You don't want 40 Newton meters of force going through your arms at all times. A lot of it is about having that dynamic range to be able to deliver, constant forces like I mentioned, and also blend in road effects and curbs and your ABS locking up, the tires skidding across the road. And that's what a DD wheel is great for. In terms of the size, it is very, very small. It literally looks like they chopped a DD1 or podium wheelbase in half, even compared to some of the small midge-based direct drive wheels like the VRS, which I have back here. It seems really, really compact. The VRS and midge motors often have an encoder sticking out of the back. They also often have more industrial sized, very, very large couplers and connectors for both the encoder and the power that is going to the motor, because it is an industrial motor that they've kind of converted over to work as a wheelbase. They didn't list any specs for the size that I saw, but it seems like it's about 8 inches cubed to give you some idea. An interesting feature that they mentioned is that the motor shaft is a carbon fiber composite material. This is something that's often a steel shaft and lots of other direct drive motors. The reason this is important is because it is a lower spec in terms of the Newton meters and total force direct drive motor. You don't want to have a heavy shaft in there that's gonna, have inertia and affect the responsiveness and acceleration of the wheel. So it being a 5 to 8 Newton meter direct drive wheel, having a very, very light motor shaft is very, very helpful. You're going to have to put on your QR that we're going to talk about in a second. You're going to have to put on your wheel rim, which have varying amounts of weight to them. So you want to keep everything as light as possible for the best force feedback. They did make note on the press release that it is a passively cooled unit. There's no fans inside of it blowing air across the componentry. Essentially, the enclosure acts as a giant heat sink. So the passive air moving around your room is going to be what's cooling it down. That's a big thing because direct drive motors can get quite warm depending on the driver and the power and the way it's handled. So we'll have to see what that's going to be like on this unit. And then we have the quick release. It seems to have the standard QR1 quick release from Fanatec on it by default. And this is going to be a little bit of a hot topic because various reviewers and different people, even users who've used it, don't like that quick release or utilizes kind of like a rubber compression ring that you compress down onto in order to lock it into place and not have any play. Some people have noted that that style of system does have play, especially when you start to use it in a higher strength DD wheel. Now they are releasing another QR2 quick release. I think the first wheel that's going to have that is that BMW GT3 wheel, which is $5,000. But this wheelbase will be upgradable to that QR2 style quick release, and it's going to have like a USB-C kind of pass through. I don't know. They do utilize a little bit of a wireless system on their other DD wheelbases so that you don't have a wire that's getting tangled, because DD wheelbases are usually able to free spin completely. So we'll have to see in terms of, getting that functionality from and information from the wheel rim through the wheelbase, exactly how that's going to work for this unit. In terms of the resolution of the wheelbase, they mentioned it's going to have the same magnetic Hall effect sensor, which is utilized in the podium lineup of wheels. I already mentioned that there's an optional PSU upgrade that you can choose to pick up. There's also the optional QR2. Also, they have an optional desk clamp. And I think this is a pretty smart move, especially for this segment of the market. You're gonna have people who are more of an entry-level casual racers who are going to be looking to pick this up, and a lot of them are going to be racing at their desks or some type of table. So having a clamping system seems pretty smart to me. This one, I haven't actually used a desk clamp on any Fanatec products that I've tried. Briefly at conferences, they tend to be on a rig, but this one reminds me a lot of the kind of Thrustmaster style clamp that clamps up under the desk and you kind of squeeze it close and it pivots off the base. So I already mentioned that they kind of teased us with this several times in a few different ways before, and I thought it would be fun to talk about that. Back on April 1st, April Fools, they announced a product, typical kind of PR marketing. We're making up a fake product to have some laughs and things like that they called the DD.5 because it literally looked like a DD1 or DD2 chopped in half. They announced the price as 350 euros. I thought that was interesting, putting an actual price on a April Fool's product. You don't always see that. Razer's released a toaster and things like that. I don't think they've ever put a price on those type of things. Why would you do that? So maybe they were trying to test the waters with that. I think a lot of people were having a laugh at it because Fanatec isn't known to release products in that market whatsoever. But I think everybody was secretly wishing, what if this is real? I really hope it is so. And now we know it is. Way back in December, BMW Motorsports actually had a conference talking about a lot of the stuff that they were having coming up this year, including the new GT3 Fanatec wheel, which is actually they say the real wheel from out of their GT3 car. I don't know how many of you guys are driving your BMW GT3 car at the track and they want to take your steering wheel off and pop it onto your wheelbase. Maybe there's a few of you out there, but during that conference, they showed off a little kind of high-end, very sleek industrial design sim rig that started out kind of as a table and then flipped up to be a sim rig, which had a wheelbase attachment and pedals in it. And the wheelbase that they showed off on that was basically kind of what we see here. It's a very short, stout, half of a direct drive wheelbase. And a lot of people took notice of that, but maybe thought it was just, for the sake of the fact that they couldn't fit a full-size DD on there. Maybe they were also teasing us, who knows. And now it's announced a $350 direct drive wheelbase. The sim racing community has been screaming for this for quite a while now, upwards of 5 years since we started seeing a lot of the more boutique, high-end $3,000 wheelbases. They started to come down in price. A lot more boutique companies like SimuCube and now VRS, SimMagic, AccuForce have started reducing them for around $1,000 and a little bit less. But everybody was saying, what if Logitech or Thrustmaster or Fanatec, got into this market and utilized their R&D, their economy of scale to produce a mass market, low cost DD wheel? And I kind of laughed when I mentioned Fanatec there because previous to this, that hasn't been the market that Fanatec has gone for. They've found this slot, this comfortable niche that they fit into, which stretches from the upper end of the kind of prosumer level products where they're going up against Thrustmaster with Thrustmaster's higher end products. And they've eked up into the boutique area with offerings like the DD2, their V3 pedals are in the $300 to $400 range and kind of go up against products like the Huxenbild Sprints. And that's where they sat. And I think that this is a little bit of a change of tack for them going after this lower market segment. In a press release from Indoor a while back, Indoor is Fanatec's parent company, their chief financial officer was quoted as saying they intend to place, quote, new products in the lower price range of the Fanatec portfolio. We will be able to significantly expand our market share worldwide. And in this same statement, he specifically mentioned the Gran Turismo series of games. Now we have Gran Turismo 7 coming up, hopefully in Q3, Q4 of 2021. Let's hope it doesn't get pushed back again into 2022. It was supposed to come out kind of closer to the release of the PS5, but he noted that these games, every single time they come out, sell in the millions of copies. I think GT5 sold 5.5 million copies of the game, and most of those people are using lower end console compatible sim racing gear. So that's where the money is, that's where the market is, that's where the consumers are, and that's where they want to be. In general, over the last 2 years, we've seen a pretty big swell and boom in sim racing interest. The number of people who are playing both arcadish games all the way up to hardcore sims. This has been spurred on in parts by some high kind of influencing creators like Jimmy Broadbent, Super GT, guys who have close to 1 million subscribers and followers, bringing this to a more mass market. We also, of course, had COVID lockdowns, which influenced the market in several ways. We had a lot of people in lockdown who couldn't go anywhere, and a lot of people were getting a lot of new hobbies, and one of those happened to be sim racing. So we saw this huge kind of boom in the number of people getting into sim racing, increase in demand when the supply wasn't increasing at the same rate. Adding on to that, we also had IRL drivers like F1 drivers, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, the whole grid basically starting to participate in sim racing. They had virtual GPs. A lot from IndyCar, we had NASCAR, we had GT3 and the Blanchepont drivers doing lots of sim racing in place of the IRL, and that's going to draw a huge number of people who haven't really been interested in sim racing to the field as well. And again, a lot of those people coming in are going to likely be playing kind of more arcade-ish racing games. They're going to be playing the sims that are available on console. Fanatec has a huge ecosystem. Wheelbases, wheel rims, pedals, different shifters, e-brakes, and all that kind of stuff. And on console, all those have to go through your wheelbase. In terms of the PC market, you are able to mix and match your gear in terms of the brands a lot more, because pretty much everything can go to the PC over USB. So shifters, even wheel rims, like, I have the GSI here. It utilizes an external USB connector with a coiled cable that you see a lot on the higher end boutique stuff. But I think it's going to still be pretty attractive for PC racers who are looking to upgrade, since they can keep whatever pedals they have, they can keep whatever shifters they have, and if they have some third-party wheelbases or boutique wheelbases, you can still typically use them if you utilize a Fanatec hub. If you were looking at any type of gear or belt-driven wheel from $300 upwards of $600, this is going to be a very attractive possible pickup for you to upgrade to. So we have no official release date on this yet. What they seem to have said in the press release and in the forums is that once they have an idea of how long it will take them to build out production and actually get distribution so that they can get these into people's hands, they will announce a pre-order and official release date. But I want to know what you guys think of this, a $350 direct drive wheelbase. I think this is what a lot of people were hoping either Thrustmaster or Logitech were going to be coming out with in this past year. Thrustmaster's wheelbases are getting a little bit long in the tooth. A lot of them came out in 2015, 2016 or older, so maybe they're gonna come back at Fanatec with something in the same realm. I hope they do. I hope you see a lot more competition and a lot more innovation in this space instead of upwards in kind of the boutique-y space where we've been seeing a lot of it, and less incremental, improvements on the lower end, and get some innovative new products to really shake things up. So tell me what you guys think of this announcement. Are you looking to pick this up? Are you hoping it's going to be your next wheelbase? And leave a like if you enjoyed this video, you found it informative. Give it a dislike if you did not. Hit me up on social media. I'm going to be talking about this product and everything in my setup a lot more. I've been putting out a lot of sim racing content, so be sure to go check that out. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.